of struggling. They're going to get rid of him in New York. This is the knock on the last two USC quarterbacks, Matt Leinart and Mark Sanchez. Chris Jenkins came out, former Jet, and said, he just said this. He was a Jets tackle for a couple of years. He said the bottom line is he wanted to pose for magazines, worry about haircuts. He's got to take some responsibility. He coasted. They coddled it. He chose high-profile self-marketing over preparation. I don't know if that's true. Trent Dilfer said 2 years ago, hinted to me he was hearing that. I know Mark. I know his brother Nick. I have offered to have both on the show today to refute that. Because Mark, I got to tell you this, you don't want that reputation. If Nick Sanchez, his brother, and Mark want that reputation, don't go on radio shows. But if you want to refute that, then basically you're more interested in haircuts and abs. I don't know that to be true. But I will tell you this, is that the Jets are a very unique place to play. You're in the shadow of the Giants. Management historically, like the Mets, has had a chip on its shoulder and done things not always in the course of winning, but often to attract attention. Secondly, it's the toughest stadium in the league to throw in. Drew Bledsoe, one of the really good quarterbacks in the last 20 years, came on my show a week ago and told a story about how he was aiming for Terry Glenn one day at Meadowlands and ended up in the arms of Aaron Glenn. The stadium's got a crosswind. It's the most difficult stadium, so you've got to get a guy with an arm. That's why Eli Manning works at MetLife. He's got a big arm. Chad Pennington did not have a great arm. Mark Sanchez does not have a great arm. You have the media to deal with. The Jets, they're not blue blood. They're kind of chip on your shoulder, Clippers, Mets, second dog in town. So you got a lot of things to worry about. Another thing is Matt Barkley's coming out for USC, and this is not going to help him because what's happening now at USC is all these USC guy comes out and everybody's like they're too Californian, they're too laid back. And I will tell you this is something that Trent Dilfer and I talked about. I brought this up years ago. If you go look at the great quarterbacks today in the NFL, there are some outliers. But I'm telling you, the majority of the great quarterbacks in the league today, 95% of them, and the great quarterbacks of all time share one trait. It's not their arm, it's not their feet, it is their chip on the shoulder. Almost all the great quarterbacks playing today and all time were passed over, turned down, and overlooked. Matt Ryan had to go to BC. Joe Flacco ends up at Delaware. Jay Cutler, Bama wasn't interested, ends up at Vanderbilt. Andy Dalton, TCU. Tony Romo undrafted. Aaron Rodgers had to go to a junior college. Drew Brees, Ohio State, Michigan, no thanks. Went to Purdue. Tom Brady, late draft round. Eli Manning, little brother of the more heralded Big Brother. Big Ben, Ohio State not interested, ends up at Miami of Ohio. Colin Kaepernick, Nevada. You look at the all-time greats. Joe Montana, drafted late. Dan Marino, from Pittsburgh, Steelers never drafted him. He made him pay for 15 years. Tom Brady, late draft. Brett Favre, overlooked by the SEC. Roger Staubach, drafted so late, the round no longer exists. Fran Tarkington, seen as too small, dropped to the third round despite prodigious talent. There's very few John Elways where supposed to be good, heralded as good, went to a good school, became great. Peyton Manning's that story. But Kurt Warner, Brett Favre, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, whizzed on, looked overlooked, stepped on, you're no good. It is that drive. Because you're in the NFL, the first thing I found out about the NFL when I covered it is that even if you're a pocket passer, you are taking a beating every day. You're going to have 4 or 5 different coordinators, head coaches. Do you have the resilience? Do you have that DNA to battle through a lot of injuries, a lot of coaches, a lot of crap, a lot of criticism? And I think most of your greats in this league, they got a chip on their shoulder. Aaron Rodgers to this day is barking at the media. Tom Brady to this day barks at the media. Doesn't think he was treated right. Whatever it is, it's like John McEnroe jokes about his kids. Why aren't they great tennis players? They suffer from affluenza. Life's too good. Life's too easy. That's the problem with these USC quarterbacks. They're California cool, no urgency, never get sacked, throw to all-American receivers in a finesse conference. That's kind of a knock on them. Leinart. USC goes out every year and gets the number 1 quarterback in the country. Who do they have this year in the recruiting class? Max Brown, number 1 quarterback in the country. Carson Palmer, number 1. Matt Barkley, number 1. Sanchez, number 1. They have a kid named David Sills from Delaware. He's the number 1 sophomore. He's already committed. They get the number one quarterback. He sits behind a huge line, throws to Marquise Lee, amazing receivers. They don't have that. Play in lousy weather, get banged up in the SEC, have to struggle an entire career, throw to mediocre skill people. It's not there. Now, whether that's the reason or not, I'm just telling you, you look at Sanchez, and there's a little Leinart thing here. He doesn't have the urgency, the good-looking tall kid. I don't know. We'll see. I think quarterback's a really tough position. By the way, I always think this is funny. Everybody's like, yeah, Sanchez, you can't give him a chance. Who wants him? Why is it we're willing to give Michael Vick a chance? Everybody wants Michael Vick to get a second chance. Mark Sanchez doesn't get one. Vick is older, more beat up physically, more injury prone, less playoff success, and is no longer improving. You can go to Michael Vick's career. His completion percentages, 44, 50, 52, 46. Under Andy Reid, with an amazing cast of talent, it went up to 58. I mean, the Eagles are loaded at skill positions, and Andy Reid is a very smart offensive guy. But, you never forget this about Mark Sanchez as you beat on him. When he actually had a running game, never forget this. And by the way, he's in great physical shape. When he actually had a running game, Mark Sanchez's first 6 playoff games, better stats and numbers than Peyton, Eli, and Big Ben. And by the way, he's a good teammate, Greg McElroy. During this whole mess with Tebow and McElroy said Sanchez was great.
Can't say enough about Mark and Tim. I mean, those guys have been, tremendous guys for me, guys that I've looked up to all year, and guys I've enjoyed being around. I mean, we have a great friendship, great relationship, and, I'm just really, really lucky to have them. I mean, they've been so positive, they've been so encouraging, and, I'm very, very grateful to have those guys, and it's obviously a fantastic thing to be in that quarterback room. Really, really lucky.
Yeah, you get no baggage with Sanchez. Other than he's limited, so's Vick. You get baggage. Coming up next, good, smart 7 a.m.